Hey guys, we are excited that you are here. My name is Adam. I'm one of the pastors here at all of our campuses, all of our network churches. To all of you joining us online today, a huge hello and welcome to all of you. Just excited about today and all that God has in store for us. Well, if you haven't realized it by now, I am a fairly strange man, okay? I've just kind of come to terms with that. I'm a strange guy. I like old stuff, cars, pens, anything old basically. And I also like random animals. And my dad is the exact same way. Growing up as a kid, when I'd come home, I was never surprised if my dad had a random new animal. We had peacocks, a family that lived on the roof of our house for a couple of years. We had a donkey. We had one pig that had a bad leg. For some reason, my dad felt bad for it, and so he went and rescued it. We had pheasants, goats. I mean, pretty much anything you can think about, we had it. And he passed on that love to me. I've shared it a few years ago. I've shared it before, but a few years ago, I convinced my wife, Becky, to allow me to have chickens in our backyard, which was a pretty big victory. God softened her heart. And so I got my chickens, but what I've always really wanted is a sheep. Like just one. I just want one sheep. I even found a specific breed called the Gotland sheep. If it's all right, let's just sit and look at this beautiful creature from God. I feel like I'm looking at pictures of my children right now. Their wool, it kind of reminds me a little bit of my back, which is TMI, but we're family, so we're good. We're good with that. Unfortunately for me, my wife and the city of Sioux Falls are both strongly opposed to this God dream that he's given me. Trust me, I've looked at every fine detail in the city codes and how that works, which honestly doesn't feel very fair to me, okay? It doesn't really feel very fair. A couple of houses down from me, a family has a Great Dane in their house. Like, why is it okay to have a small pony in your home, but I can't have a sheep in my backyard? Thankfully, I have some good friends. One of my friends, and he wasn't joking. He said, Adam, if you ever get a Gotland sheep, you can keep them at my house. I'm like, that is a sign of friendship right there. Legitimately though, one day I might just get crazy and go and get a sheep and see what happens. There's gotta be like a religious exemption of some kind. Jesus likes sheep. Maybe I can get away with it. But truthfully, if I ever actually do get a sheep in my backyard, I will be sleeping in my backyard with that sheep, okay? And so today we are gonna mention sheep, but really I was just looking for an excuse to share pictures with Gotland sheep with all of you. But right now we are in a series called The One. The series is called The One, and where we're looking at a few different things that Jesus said, if you do this one thing, that it'll change everything about you and it will change the world around you. And to find out what today's one thing is, we are going to look at a specific story. If you have a Bible with you today, I want to encourage you to open it up. Use the Bible on your phone. If you don't have the Bible on your phone, right now would be a great time to go search. Just get the Bible app on your phone and open it up to Matthew chapter 9. And picking up our story, we're going to be looking at verse 35. Here is what our friend and our brother Matthew has to say to us. He says, Jesus traveled through all the towns and villages of that area, teaching in the synagogues and announcing the good news about the kingdom. And he healed every kind of disease and illness. Then he goes on to say, when Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. Now, this word compassion, I always say, is the prettiest ugly word that you've ever heard. This word compassion in the Greek, it translates to be moved in one's bowels. Not a pretty word, right? And so this word compassion, it does not mean I kind of care about this person, or I'm a Christian and so I should care. I guess I kind of care about them. That's not compassion. Instead, compassion is this. I love this person so much that it hurts in here. Like I care about them so much that when they hurt, I hurt. When they're broken, I'm broken. When they're lost, I want them to be found. That's compassion. Jesus has compassion on them. Why? Because they are harassed and helpless. This can also translate to confused and troubled. I thought this was powerful. These two words together, it can also mean to be thrown down on the ground. I picture the Undertaker body slamming someone WWE style, right? These people were harassed and they were helpless. Now, I don't know about you, but that feels like life right now, doesn't it? Like right now, so many people are confused and troubled. So many people, it feels like they've been thrown down on the ground. And so people are hurting. And yet, in the same breath, right now, we seem to hate each other just as much or even more so. So many people are hurting, and yet also so many people are hating. Lately, it just seems so easy to become jaded. Everyone's angry at each other, divided and struggling. Even for myself, just to be honest, lately I found myself angry at other people and secretly thinking to myself, why are other people so stupid? Not myself, obviously. I'm not stupid at all, but why is everyone else so stupid? And I find myself just kind of wanting to focus and worry about myself and my family and me, myself, and I. And everyone else, well, they can just kind of figure it out on their own. Everyone else, they can help themselves. And yeah, I know, I want to help you, but right now, I just need to focus on me and my own family. Anyone else at that place? Where you're just kind of like, I'm done. And I'm just going to care about myself. Well, this is the opposite of what Jesus is doing in our story. It's the opposite of how he feels and how he treats the people around them. I mean, to Jesus, the people were not annoying and stupid. They were harassed and they were helpless. Jesus saw the people and he was moved in here, not just kind of sort of, he had compassion for them. The people were harassed and they were helpless. And why were they harassed and why were they helpless? Because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Why were they harassed and helpless? They were like sheep without a shepherd. This week, I did some Googling to learn more about sheep. Sometimes the day is difficult, you know? And I learned that it's impossible for domesticated sheep to care for themselves. Wild sheep, they're fine, but regular domesticated sheep, they can't. Like they need to be cared for. And just listen to some of the things that I found out about this. To start, sheep's wool, if it's not cared for, it quickly gets infected with parasites and worms and maggots, causing horrible irritation to the sheep, and they become harassed by the infection. I thought that was an interesting word to use, that they become harassed by the infection. If their wool gets too long in the heat, a sheep can easily overheat, in some circumstances even die. If their feet are uncared for, their hoofs will grow to the point that they can no longer walk on their own legs and feet. Also, sheep get easily lost, and sheep, they can't protect themselves. Like if there's any predator, they are done for on their own. To sum it up, sheep are helpless. Or you could say it this way, sheep need a shepherd. Sheep need a shepherd. It's not optional, it's a necessity. Without a shepherd, they are harassed and they are helpless. Sheep need a shepherd. And now I don't want to insult anyone, but in so many ways, you and I, we are like sheep. I am like a sheep, and you are like a sheep, and everyone else around us is like a sheep in so many ways. Like sheep, we need a shepherd. We need a shepherd. It's not a want, it's a need. It's not optional, it's a necessity. You and I, we need. There's no options. We need a shepherd. We need it. Like when we get dirty and we make a mess out of ourselves and it feels like we're infected with guilt and shame, we need someone to clean us. In so many ways, we need someone to care for us. When we get lost and we stray and we feel like we've totally lost our way in life, we need someone to find us. When we're hurt and we're broken and it feels like people are after us, and maybe they actually are, we need someone to protect us, Just to read these words again, listen to this. When Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and they were helpless like sheep without a shepherd. In case we don't know, Jesus is talking about himself. He is the shepherd, not a shepherd, but the shepherd. And he looks at this crowd of people and he's heartsick for them because he knows that they need a shepherd. They need him. They need Jesus. And the same is true for us. We don't just need a shepherd, we need the shepherd. We need Jesus. We need Jesus. Without Jesus, we're harassed and helpless. It's not optional, it's a necessity. We need him. So Jesus says all of this, and then it ends with this. Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who's in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send out more workers into his fields." Again, Jesus is looking at these crowds of people and he's filled with compassion for them because they don't know God. They don't know Jesus. And then he says the harvest is great, but the workers are few. Like, there are so many people who are harassed and helpless, so many people who don't know God, they don't know the shepherd, but the workers are few. The people who know about Jesus, and not just the people who know about Jesus, but the people who are actually willing to share about Jesus are few. So many people without a shepherd, and yet there's so few amount of people who are actually willing to share about the shepherd, or willing to share about Jesus. And there's such an urgency to this that Jesus is like, pray and ask God to send out even more workers into the fields. Again, right now, so many in our world are harassed and helpless, and people are struggling, and they're angry, and they're depressed, and they're addicted, and they're divided, and they're lonely. The harvest is great, but the workers are few. And hear this. Yes, our world is crazy right now. And yes, it's so easy to become jaded right now. And yes, it's so easy to get convinced that the sky is falling and yada, yada, yada. But all I can think to myself is, for such a time as this. Yes, the world is dark right now, but the light, it shines the brightest in the darkness. And so God comes to us and he says, I want to use you. I want to use you, church. I want to use you, followers of Jesus. Are you sick of our world being divided? Great. That's why I put you out in the fields. Are you sick of people hating each other and being divided and all the addiction and all the brokenness? Fantastic. What are you doing with the field you're standing in? I'm glad it bothers you, because it should bother you. And that's why I put you specifically right where you are. Pray and ask God to send out the workers. We are the workers. Jesus is like, I want to use you. The harvest is great, but the workers are few. I want to use you. The only question: are you willing to be a worker? Are you, myself included, are you willing to be a worker? Harvest is great. Workers are few. Are you willing to be a worker? A few weeks back, we lost a wonderful part of our church, a man named Gordy. Gordy, 85 years old. He's the only person in the history of Embrace that I didn't mind if he fell asleep halfway through my message. I took it as a sign and confirmation from God. I said, Gordy's sleeping. God, you love me, you know? Just an amazing man, great father, husband, grandpa, great-grandfather, also a great basketball player. Years ago, got drafted by the Minneapolis Lakers. Ended up becoming a Hall of Fame basketball coach, state director to Fellowship of Christian Athletes. More than anything, Gordy was a man who loved Jesus. And to me, Gordy was a friend. Near the end, Gordy was moved to hospice here in town. And during our last conversation, it was just him and I in his room, and he just began to tell story after story after story. He'd fall asleep mid-sentence, and then randomly wake up and just keep going. I'm like, I don't know how you just did that, but that was amazing. The two of us just laughing and laughing and laughing. Him telling me about how excited he was to go be with Jesus in heaven. Like true happiness. It was awesome. The one thing I've told so many people about that time with him was the joy and peace that was in Gordy's hospice room. It was unreal. I mean, at a time when our world is so harassed and helpless, here's a man who's literally on his deathbed, and yet his room is filled with the unexplainable peace of Jesus. You see, here's the truth. Gordy knew his shepherd. I was like, how do you have this in your hospice room? Gordy knew his shepherd. If I could bottle it up, I could make millions of dollars. Literally, people are hungry for this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just Gordy knew his shepherd. There's no need to fear, no worries about infections and parasites and he had a good shepherd. But the one thing that I wanted to share today with all of us is Gordy was a college basketball coach for 22 years and also an assistant college football coach for 20 of those same years. He had all kinds of players, literally hundreds of players who are now mostly grown old men themselves. But about 11 years ago, Gordy, he wrote this open letter to all of his players. And at the time, he had already had 9 players who had passed away under some circumstances. And Gordy shared in his letter that one of the greatest accomplishments of his life, and this is a man who had some accomplishments, at one point, 7 out of 10 years, he won the championship. He had the accomplishments, but he said, one of the greatest accomplishments, looking back, was that I brought Jesus into the locker room. And he wrote, I found great comfort in knowing that at some point, all of my players, including the 9 who had passed away, at some point, all of them had heard about Jesus from me personally. How amazing is that? Can we say that? I honestly don't even know if I can say that. Amazing. You see, Gordy's field was the basketball court and his players. That was his field. Another one of his fields was his home. Gordy has 4 grown children, and one of his daughters, right around the time that Gordy was passing away, she said to me, I know that Dad was a great coach. He was a great coach, but he was an even better father. Dad loved Jesus. And he constantly was telling us and talking about Jesus always. Get this, since the day that Gordy came to follow Jesus in 1965, he said yes to being a worker. He said yes. Once again, Jesus tells us the harvest is great. Workers are few. That question again for you and I, are you willing to be a worker? Are you willing to be a worker? See, the truth is for us, God has intentionally placed each of us in a field to work. He's intentionally put you on a specific block in a specific neighborhood with a specific job in a specific position. Are you willing to be a worker? Who are the people in your field? Think about the specific people in your field. Who has God intentionally placed around you in your life? Who are they? Who has God entrusted you with? It's crazy to think that no one else on the face of the earth has been entrusted with the same exact group of people that you have. No one. There's maybe some crossover with people here and there, but no one on the face of the earth has been entrusted with the same exact group of people that you have. Who are they? And then other questions, do you care about them? Do you care about these people? Not just kind of, sort of, I'm talking about compassion. Are you moved at your core for them? When they hurt, do you hurt? And do you care whether or not they know Jesus? Not just in theory. Well, I kind of guess that I kind of hope that they kind of know Jesus. Not in theory. With your words, with your actions, with your life, do you care that they know Jesus? Just as a friend, there's a very clear difference. In theory, I just kind of sort of do. You don't love them. When we have love, when we have this compassion, it moves us to action. Do you want the people in your life to know the great shepherd? For Gordy, it wasn't a theory. Instead, daily, and he was far from perfect. Daily, he used his words, his action, his life to point people to Jesus. Are you willing to be a worker? Today, if you are, if the answer is yes, what's the one thing that Jesus wants you to do? What's the one thing that God wants you to do consistently that can change everything about you and can change the world around you? What's the one thing? It's this: harvest your field. Harvest your field. You want to be used by God? Harvest your field. Want to help change everyone around you, including yourself? Harvest your field. God has put you in a specific field with specific people. The only question, will you harvest? Harvest your field. So how do you do that, right? Like, what does that even mean? Like, how do you harvest your field? Like, what should we do? Well, quickly first, here's a few things that you shouldn't do. What you shouldn't do is tell everyone around you that they're stupid sheep, okay? What you shouldn't do is get crazy political and post all kinds of crazy crap all over Facebook. That's what you shouldn't do. What you shouldn't do is shove the Bible down everyone's throat while being a very miserable person. And everyone knows you're miserable. You're the awkward, you gotta walk on eggshells around you. Yeah, you're the first person to talk about Jesus. Don't do any of that. Instead, how do you harvest your field? One way, love people well. Love people well. Consistently love people well. Be the person who's consistently kind. Be the person who's reliable and actually does what they say they're going to do. I don't even know what that looks like anymore. I haven't seen it for a long time. Be someone who's slow to speak and quick to listen. Be someone who isn't bitter, instead is quick to forgive. Be someone who uses their words to give life instead of death. Be the one mature person who can agree to disagree with other people, and you actually have close friends who think very, very differently than you. Again, simply love people well. It's kind of interesting. Right now, our world, it shouts, love, love, love. It carries banners of love. But if you look past the surface, our world really only loves you if you look like it, talk like it, act like it, vote like it, do everything like it. Jesus says, no, anybody can do that. That's not really love. Anybody can love someone who's exactly like them. I want you to love people. You want to follow me? I want you to love people that disagree with you. I want you to love people who are completely different than you. I want you to love people who are hard to love. I want you to love, get this, I want you to love even your enemies. That's love. Go and do that. Jesus is like, anybody can love someone who's exactly like them. I want you to love the hardest to love people. Just to say it, when we begin to love people well, people are moved by it. Even the last person in your life that is so different from you in every way will begin to be curious to know more about the Jesus that you follow. They'll begin to ask you questions. I know that you're one of these Christians. I know we're different. I know that we think differently every way, but would you just tell me about, like, what's different? Like, what do you have that I don't have? Love people well. Second way, you want to harvest your field? Do good. Do good. Paul tells us to not grow weary of doing good. Be the person who's quick to look for ways to serve others. Be the person who's constantly looking for ways that you can impact the field and the world around you for good. Christians are often known, and churches are often known for talking a lot, but doing very little. Often known for being very inward focused only on themselves while not caring at all or whatsoever about the world around. But I've found that the world takes note. I've found that the world will turn its head when the church genuinely looks to serve others out there, not just in here, out there with no strings attached. The world can't help but just look and just do a double take. The world notices when they see Christians being quick to get their hands dirty, when they see Jesus followers being the first to help others, when they see people who not only talk about Jesus, but they look like Jesus. Now, there are so many different ways that we can live this out and do good, so many ways. Just one of the ways that we try to do this at the church is through run projects. Run projects is where anyone connected to Embrace, even loosely, can apply for up to $2,000 to go do Jesus stuff out there. Network churches, we actually want you to be a part of this as well. In the near future, you're gonna be hearing more about how you can be a part of the run projects. But again, anyone can sign up for up to $2,000 to go do things, to go do good, to go be the hands and feet of Jesus out there. And so we started these run projects back in March, and it's been amazing to see the different projects that have taken place. So on that note, check this out. I love this. In 10 months, we've had 78 projects and given away over $93,000. More than that, we've impacted the lives of hundreds of people. And I love that when I say impacted the lives of hundreds of people, we haven't just randomly given a marketing campaign to them and told them all about Embrace. Hopefully they know very little about Embrace. It's not about Embrace. Instead, that's hundreds of people that have been impacted by the love of Jesus. It's about him. Want to harvest your field? Again, there's so many ways that you can do this. Do good. Do good. Lastly, want to harvest your field? What should you do? Share about the shepherd. Share about the shepherd. Tell others about Jesus. And I know this last one is going to be the hardest one for so many of us. And when I say share about the shepherd, I'm not saying go on a street corner and preach a sermon. I'm not saying explain the entire Bible to one of your coworkers or be the annoying Christian. I'm simply saying when the opportunity comes about, when your coworker is struggling, when someone asks why you're the person that you are, when you tell someone your story, when there's a friend that's going through a dark season, simply tell them about Jesus. Tell them about Jesus. Tell them about what God has done in your life. Tell them about the hope and joy and self-control that you found in him. If there was a Bible verse that brought you through a dark season and you know somebody else is going through that dark season, write down the Bible verse and give it to them. Offer to pray for the person. If the person doesn't have a Bible, that's a cue for you to go and buy a Bible that they can understand. Simply tell them about Jesus. Don't be uptight. Don't be over the top. If they're not a Christian, don't try to point out their sin. Simply tell them about your shepherd. Tell them about Jesus. I promise if you genuinely care about the person and you genuinely love the Lord, God will absolutely use it every single time. Every time. Want to harvest your field? Love people well. Want to harvest your field? Do good. Want to harvest your field? Share about the shepherd. Jesus tells us the harvest is so great, but the workers are so few. Want to do one thing that will change everything about you and will change the world around you? If If you do this consistently, if you do this one thing, if you harvest your field, God will do just that. He'll change everything. Let's pray. Gracious Father, Heavenly King, we come before you thankful for who you are. Thankful that you are our great shepherd. And I gotta believe there's somebody hearing my voice right now who wants what I've been talking about. They want the joy and peace found in you. They want what Gordy has. That's found in you, God. For that person, I pray that maybe the first step is just saying, Jesus, would you be my shepherd? Jesus, I wanna follow you. Maybe another step is reaching out to a friend or a coworker who knows God, or reaching out to a pastor and just saying, hey, I want to know more about the shepherd. For all of us who are already following him, God, you want to use us. Oftentimes I wonder, God, can you use me? Resoundingly, you're speaking to us, yes. Yes. God, you've placed each of us specifically and intentionally right where we are. Would you use us? Would you help us to realize that when we see darkness and division, that's where you want to use us the most? God, will we be people out of your strength, not our heart, out of your love, not ours, out of your peace and gentleness and faithfulness? Would we be people who would love people well? Would we be people who consistently do good? Would we be people who consistently, out of genuine love and grace, would share about you? Constantly, would we share about our great shepherd, you? Lord, we love you. We thank you. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus. All God's people said, amen. Amen.